All right, I am recording, so let's get started. Today is day 59. It is Wednesday, the 5th of April. Remember, there's no class Friday. I'm still having an error in my code, so what we're going to do today is, rather than the bookstore website, we are going to work on the Chapter 13 project as a class, and it'll probably take today and tomorrow to do it. I'd like to do it nice and slow, and we can go over stuff as we're going through here. So the first thing I want to do is just take a minute, go over the project. It's the same one we've worked with before, this quarterly sales app. But if you look at it, hopefully you can see that there's been a few things that have been changed here, such as, well, we now have pagination at the bottom of the page. All right, that will not show unless we have more than 4 records in here, but we will have pagination. Secondly, as of right now, the only way that you can filter is by employee. But if you notice in here, we want to give the user 3 different ways of filtering. That is by employee, or by year, or by quarter. So that's the second thing. Third thing that you hopefully can notice if you look on here, and that is each one of the headings that we have here, the field names, they're hyperlinks. If you click on them one time, so if I click on year once, it'll sort in ascending order based on year. If I click on it again, it'll sort in descending order based on year, and the same with the rest of them. So I don't think we really have to talk about that anymore. Now, we really don't have a whole heck of a lot of specs. They're shown right here. All right, as it says here, when the app starts, it should display the table of sales data with the drop downs, as it says, for employee, year, and quarter. Already talked about that. The links, talked about that. The first time, again, the user clicks the link, it should sort that field in ascending, then in descending. Talked about that. All right. Also then, display a page of sales records rather than all of them, and provide the links below in the form of, it looks like buttons here to navigate through the pages. So that's our first spec with 4 parts in it. Next, the app should have a user-friendly URL that shows the page size, the sort order, the sort direction, and what values are being filtered by. So if we go back and look up here, you can tell we're in the home index. We're at page 1, 4 per page. We're sorting by quarter in descending order, and we're filtering it by all, or showing all employees for the year 2019. All right. And then finally, as it says here, the bookstore app in chapter 13 use this filter prefix. And what they're saying here is it's simpler to do it in the way they're showing it. Now, that may make little to no sense, so that's okay. All right, we already have an app that we created called Quarterly Sales App. All right, but I'm going to start all over again anyway. We're even going to recreate the database. All right, so what I'd like you to do, please, is start up Visual Studio. We will create a new project. We will again make sure it is C#, Windows, and Web. Come up here and type in model. All right, and there is our ASP core web app for model view controller. I am going to come in here and create a new folder. And I'm going to call this one Quarterly Sales App 13, because we're doing it in chapter 13. Nothing special about it other than that. All right, so I just made this Quarterly Sales App 13. All right, so with this chosen, I'm going to go to next. Now I am going to just call this Quarterly Sales App because that's fine in here. All right, now I'll use that for my project name and for my solution name. And then for my location, I'm just going to select well, and I actually did it weird because I made one P capitalized. There we go. So Quarterly Sales App 13. All right. So this is how mine looks. If yours doesn't look identical, it's fine. But I'm calling the project name and the solution name both quarterly sales app, and I'm putting them into a folder called quarterly sales app 13, the one that's right here. All right. All right. And I'm going to say next. 6 is fine. We're not doing anything with admin in this project to my knowledge. So I'm just going to click create. Going to go through the regular stuff it always goes through. I'm going to close this. And as of right now, we've got this model in here. All right, but the first thing we're going to be concerned with today is actually working with our models folder. So the first thing I'd like to do, I don't care about this error view model. I'm just going to leave it there. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create 6 different folders under models. As always, of course, the order in which you create these doesn't matter, but I'm just going to do them in alphabetic order. All right, so I'm going to come into models here. I'm going to add a new folder, and the first one will be called data access. DATAACCESS, capital D and capital A. So there's my first one, data access. The second one that I create is the first one that we'll actually be working in just a minute. And that is, I'm going to add another folder in here. And that folder is going to be called domain models. And of course, that's where we will put our entity classes in just a couple minutes. Then the third folder that we are going to create right here is going to be called extension methods. The fourth folder that we're going to create is going to be for the grid. The fifth folder will be called validation. And finally, the sixth folder, which is the second one that we'll be working with in a few minutes, will be our view models folder. So again, we now have 6 folders under our models folder, plus this error view model, which we don't really care about. Close that, I shouldn't have opened it anyway. Those 6 folders again are data access, domain models, extension methods, grid, navigation, and view models. All right. Now, just so you know, the bad weather seems to have passed, but when I'm getting dinged that I'm getting emails, I'm going to check just to make sure I haven't been dropped or you haven't been dropped. If one of those happens, please send me an email right away. I didn't look yesterday in my morning class. We went for an hour. Then somehow during the break, I got dropped from Teams. I kept lecturing for 45 more minutes, but there was no one on and it wasn't taping. I mean, that's a waste of my time. So I had to go back and retape it again. All right. Okay. So with that said, let's go in and let's literally go in rather and just start working on these. Okay. So again, the first one, and actually before we do that, let's do the stuff that we normally do. What do I mean? Well, let's go in and open up appsettings.json. And let's come in here. I forgot all about this. And let's add our connection string. All right. And this is going to be a quarterly sales. So we'll call it, again, we could call it whatever we want, but I just called mine sales context. And we've done this many times before. So server equal local DB. SQL local DB, and move this over so we can see everything, and I'll make this smaller. for a minute or two. Our trusted connection equals true. And finally, our multiple active result sets is also going to be equal to true. All right, so we did a little smaller. There we go. So that's everything. As always, I want to check my own spelling. I believe that everything that's in there is correct. All right. Oh, wait a minute. I missed something. I'm sorry. We didn't put in our database. All right. So we've got right here, we want to put in the name of our database. John might be jumping on, so give me a second here. All right. Hello, John. We're just starting up, so I'll give you a chance to catch up. We're creating a brand new project. We're going to do the Chapter 13 quarterly sales app. All right. And we're going to make modifications to it. And so start up a new project. I called mine. I called the folder quarterly sales app 13. All right. And I called both the project and the solution just quarterly sales app. So please do that. And then we're coming in here right now. Of course, I forgot the name of the database. So I'm going to say database here equal. I think we called our last one quarterly sales. So I'm going to call this quarterly sales 13 because that's the chapter. All right. So again, let me make this smaller. I know that's kind of hard to see, but that's where we are right now. All right. And in just a moment, we'll come in to our program.cs file and we will add that use SQL server that we have to put in there. After we do that, we will go into the package manager, not the console, but the controller, and we'll add our entity framework core, our entity framework core SQL server, and our entity framework core tools. We're going to add those. All right. Then we will go in and we will create our two entity classes, and then we'll create our view model. All right. So we have 6 different folders again that we are creating under our models folder. They are right here. So under models, you can create these 6 folders if you have not already done so. Data access, domain models, extension methods, grid, validation, and view models. After we get done with this preliminary work, we're going to the order in which we're going to do these, at least for now, we're going to do the domain models. Then we're going to jump into the view models after that. All right. And then we'll just see how it goes after that point. If we get to the point here by sometime after 2 o'clock today, that we've got all 6 of these folders in here, I'm pretty cool with that. Then tomorrow we would add our controllers and we would add our views. If it takes less time than that, great. Then we'll start on the controllers today. All right. But I don't like to go much more than to 2:30 or so. All right. So hopefully, John, you're in the midst of catching up right here. Again, I'm going to give you just a couple minutes so that you can catch up.
I'm good, Mr. Scott. You can keep going.
You're caught up. You're all caught up. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. I just want to mention to you guys too. I know you've heard this stuff before. 4 weeks from Friday is the last day. What should happen on Friday, that Friday, May 5th, if not before, you should be getting an email where you can go in and you can do your evaluation of the class. You should know this already. It's basically a 3-part evaluation. Did the class meet your expectations? Did the book meet your expectations? Did the instructor meet your expectations? Just be honest. It's your last chance. You want to bash the heck out of me, then that's what you should do. I also want to mention to you, just so you know, last night, what we have at Rankin twice a year, if you don't know this, is we have advisory committee meetings. In the fall, we have people from business and industry come in. It's our business and industry IT advisory committee meeting. Sometimes we do it in person. Sometimes we do it over Teams. That's how we did it this year. And that we do that in fall. Then in spring, we have what's called the Rankin Alumni Advisory Committee meeting. All right, we had that yesterday, and we actually had really good participation. I think we had around 20 people, and out of those 20, I'd say there were two of my graduates, and you might even know some of them. I don't know. James Wharton came, and Gabriel Breeding came. All right, and Evan had about 5 graduates, and then there were about 10 or so graduates from the IT programs. Okay, and what happened was we first introduced ourselves, which takes a lot longer with 20 or 25 people than you might think. All right. Then after that, Evan asked 3 questions. We went through them one at a time. Number one was these are all people who are working out in the field now. So what did you learn at Rankin that helped you in your current position? That was the first question. Then the second question was, what were you taught at Rankin that didn't help what you're doing, that didn't help in what you're doing at all right now? And then the third question was, what was the third one? Oh, if you were hired in tomorrow as a Rankin instructor and you were told you could make changes to the program, how would you change the program? And again, we talked both about the IT programs and about the AWD program. And it was all over the board, like you might be able to guess. And what I mean is, one guy said, I guess I sort of understand, like in the first semester, why you have to teach HTML and why you have to teach CSS. But he said, on my job, almost everything I do is JavaScript, and I wish we'd had more JavaScript than we had. Fair enough point. The next guy got up and said, I totally disagree with that, because with what I do on my job, I've got a little bit of JavaScript, but I'm mainly in charge of keeping this place's website up to date. So I do tons of work with HTML and CSS, and I'm glad we had that. So like I said, it was all over the board. All right. They mentioned that they wish they would have had more work with SQL. Well, then Evan and I both chimed in and said, hey, we've gotten rid of the course that we used to have in the 4th semester where students write Android apps in Java, and we've replaced it with a C# class where you write web applications for C# using ASP.NET. And I said that since about week 4 or 5, we've been working with databases. All right. And, again, one person said, and Evan brought this up too. Do you want to be miles wide and inches deep? In other words, do you want to teach a lot of different things, but not be able to cover all of them in a lot of depth and breadth of coverage? Or do you want to be inches deep and miles wide? All right. So, and what I'm saying is one way or the other. Do you want to teach a lot of stuff, but just a little? Or do you want to concentrate on one thing and teach it a lot? And again, people argued in both directions. The only reason I'm telling you this is come a year from now, you will both be contacted, because I have no doubt that you're going to have a job. You'll both be programmers or web developers or whatever. So you're going to be contacted. And it's your chance to come in and say anything you want about what didn't work in the program, what did work in the program, etc. All right. So everybody's caught up. I'm going to do a file save all, and I'm going to close this. And I'm going to come over here to my program.cs file that's over here. We've done this kind of thing before. All right. And right before our add, I don't remember if we put this before or after our add controllers with views, but I think it went before. All right. So I'm going to come in here and do just what we have been doing in the past. All right. And that is bring in that, excuse me, bring in that use SQL server thing that, again, we have worked with before in the past. All right. So the way we bring that in, again, we can put in the comment if we want, add entity framework, core, dependency injection. And that was builder.services.add context. How to use the same name that we used before. So in our case, that's sales context. And this is wrong. There we go. Not sure why I'm getting an error. Hopefully it'll fix itself in a minute. All right. Now it may be giving me that error here because it says we've got a missing directive. So what's my potential fix here? It says to generate that file. We are going to generate it in a little bit. All right, so don't worry about that for right now. All right, but I believe at least, let me make this, move that over again, make it a little bigger. There we go. All right, so I'll give you a second to put that up. And then we're going to go in and immediately go in and start to create our entity classes. All right, there are two of them. There is going to be a sales class and there is going to be an employee class. So we're going to do those next. All right. Okay, I'm hoping that you've all had a chance to catch up then. So file, save all. I'm going to close this as well. Come over to here and I'm going to go into my domain models folder right here. And I'm going to right mouse click, choose add class. Doesn't matter which one we do first. All right. We may get errors if we refer to one and we're in the other one. But again, really and truly, it's not that big a thing. Let's do the harder one first, which is employee. So I'm going to add employee.cs here. So that's our new class. And I don't know, it's about 40 lines or so. I'll make this a little bigger and we'll start. All right. I mean, I can put the comment in there that says primary key. I'm hoping by now everybody gets that, so I don't really have to say any more about that. Let me move these over. There we go. All right. So an employee has a first name, a last name, a birth date, a hire date, and a manager. You may remember that from before when we did this. You may not. All right. So I'm going to start with, in fact, let's put in our decoration first. Hold on a second. Okay, so the string length on this is going to be 100. We'll do a display name on here, which again is similar to when we come in and in CSS or in HTML rather, where we come in and basically add our text right in the box itself, okay? All right, so we've got display here, and this will be name equal first name. All right, and then our public string first name with our get set. So I'll give you a second to do that. No pun intended, but I'm going to immediately copy this and put it right down below because the second field that we have is last name. So I'm just going to change all these first names that were up here to last names. All right. Now, I know you don't care about this, but I want to tell you real quick, I'm having some problems with the heat in the air in my house. The room I normally broadcast out of, it's almost 90 in there. So I am in my kitchen. The reason I'm quickly telling you that is my dog is in here with me. And if the dog goes nuts, then I'm going to probably have to move into the other room. So we have to take a quick break, but just so you're aware of that. All right, so far we've got in here a first name and we've got a last name. All right. Then we have a birth date and a hire date. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. And again, I'll just grab a couple of these things here. Okay, so I'm going to have a required. The error message will be please enter a birth date. All right. And then we're going to have more stuff in here. So I'll leave that display in here, but I'm going to add some other stuff right here. All right. So first thing is the birth date must be valid and it must be in the past. So these are things we're going to handle later with a validation class. I want to say that again. These are things we're going to handle later with a validation class. All right. So I'm going to come in here. Okay. So again, must be a valid date in the past. All right. Okay, I'm getting these right now. I'm getting the errors that I'm getting because as of right now, we don't have anything that we've created called past date. We will do that in a little bit. All right. We're also going to be doing some remote checking. All right. All right. I know I'm going to have to make this smaller, so let me do that. There you go. All right. And again, this all has to do in here with the fact that we're going to be creating methods in here that we're going to be using. I don't know if it wants a capital N there or not. These are correct though, so let's see. We don't want that. There we go. All right. And then our display name, but our display name here will be birth date. We will set that up for nulls. And as you can see, I left the E out of date time. And I made a dirty word there. There we go. Okay, there we are. And we've got get and set. All right, so right now, the only thing that's giving us a problem here is this past date thing that we have not yet written. All right, so that's 3 of our fields. Again, the next one is hire date. So I am again going to copy everything down to the clipboard, paste that in so that right underneath please enter a birth date, I'll have please enter a hire date. All right. And again, so a hire date must be a valid date in the past, so the same kind of thing. All right. Let's see. And we're going to have a little bit more in here. So let's just check this. So required error message, please enter a birth date, past date, error message equal birth date must be a valid date in the past. That's good. Remote check employee, validation, additional fields, first name and last name. That's good. Display name equal birth date. That's good. And a public date time DOB. That's all good. Okay. So this will be a hire date. Again, it'll be the setup the same here. And it'll be set up the same. For the past date, it'll be set up the same. We're not going to be doing a remote on here. All right, we're going to be doing a greater than. And if you remember back from chapter 8 or whenever we went over this program before, the company was founded in 1995. So the date that we enter for a hire date must be greater than 1/1/95. All right, so we come in here and do that with a greater than. All right, something like that. And that's a greater than. Okay, so greater than. And again, we're coming in here and we have an error message. All right, now the display in here, the name, of course, won't be birth date. It will be hire date. And the name down here, okay, instead of, we could have called this date of birth up above, but we called it DOB, but this will be date of hire. All right. And I'm not sure why I'm getting that greater than error, but I'm not worried about it right now. I think all this stuff is going to wash out in just a minute. All right, as we go and create the other stuff that we have yet to create. All right, so not done yet, but those are our first 4 fields, 5 fields. The employee ID, the first name, the last name, the birth date, and the hire date. The only thing that's left is the manager. All right, the only field name that's left is the manager. So let's put in that. We're going to use another greater than here. So I'm going to just copy this, even though it's quite different. So I've got a greater than here. This is just going to say 0. And the error message here is going to be please select a manager. All right, and that's going to be from a drop-down list that we're going to have, that's going to have the names of all of our managers on it. All right, okay, we're going to do another remote in here. I could just copy that one over, but I'm going to manually type it. This will be check manager. And if you don't remember this back from chapter 8, the idea behind this is that a person reports to somebody but cannot report to themselves. So if I'm in there as a new employee, all right, I can't put for my person that I want to report to me. It's got to be someone else. All right, so we've got a check manager in here. Again, there will be a validation. And we will have additional fields, just like we did before. and they will be equal to first name, last name, and date of birth. So I'll make that a little smaller so you can see it. We'll put in a display name in here again. And we'll put in the field. It'll be an integer. All right. And then finally, the only thing that's left is we're going to make that concatenated extra method where we concatenate together the first name and last name and put that into a new field that's called full name. Just like that. Right? So again, we do have some errors that are showing in here. And as I mentioned, my hope is that those errors will work their way out as we work our way through this. All right. And I'll leave that up there for just a second, but I'm going to take for granted that whether this is right or wrong, that everything that was put in there all makes sense to you. All right. Some of this stuff you're going to have to go back and take a look at it. I get that. All right. For instance, talking about the greater than, okay, and talking about the past date, which we did write something like that earlier, and we are going to again. All right, I've got a couple of extraneous blank lines here. Okay, like I said, about 40 lines, and I was right. All right, so I think that's everything. So I'm going to do a file, save all in here, and I'll leave that open. But I'm going to create another class in here in my domain models, and this is going to be called sales.cs. All right. Now, to work with this class, I'm going to put a couple using statements in here that won't be that necessary until later on in the program, but I'm going to add them now. So I'm going to use Microsoft dot ASP.NET Core dot MVC and another using system dot component model dot data annotations. They're gray, of course, because we're not using them yet. All right. So let's go in and start putting in this stuff. I can make this a little bigger here. There we go. All right. So the first thing again will be our primary key. So public int sales ID with a get set. All right. Nothing new there. All right. And we're going to have in here the following fields. We're going to have a field called quarter. We're going to have a field in here called year. We're going to have a field in here that's called amount. And then we're also going to add in basically as a foreign key, we are going to add an employee ID, and as a navigation property, we're going to add employee itself. So let's start putting this in. You'll notice in here we're using the range operator, and we're just giving it a range of 1 to 4 because there's 4 quarters in a year. I do here, that should be a paren. So should that. All right. It's over. And it looks like I did not end this. There we go. All right. Okay, so there's the first one. All right. Then the next field we have in here is year, but one of the things we were told back in chapter 8, or again, whenever we went over this to begin with, was they weren't starting to chart this stuff until 2000. So this is going to be required again, but we're going to have a greater than, but we're going to use 2000 because as it said earlier, the year cannot be before the year 2000. All right, so. So that's the third one. So again, so far we have our sales ID, the quarter, and the year. And again, once we come in and we write these routines, the errors that you see on here are going to go away. All right. Okay. We must enter a positive amount. So all right, so there's our third one. And finally, again, what we're going to have to do in there, we talked about this already, all right, is you're going to have to set this up so that we do select an employee that we are associating with these sales. All right, and this will be the last thing that we'll put in here. So I'm going to steal this line here. All right, and then finally, we have again our navigation property. Like that. And those are our two entity classes. All right. Okay, and like I said, my hope is that these errors in here that we have are going to kind of flush their way out in just a bit. Now I'm looking at this one. It says it could not be found. Show potential fixes. Generate class employee. We already have an employee class. Okay, I called mine here employees. It should be employees singular. So I'm just going to do a quick rename on here, get rid of that S, hit enter. Yes, I want it to change everywhere. All right, and it looks like that cleaned up some of the errors. Not all of them, but some of them. All right. Again, I'm looking in here, so when I find spelling errors, I'm going to try to throw them in. But we haven't created past due. We haven't created greater than, which is why it's flagging those particular ones. All right, so that's everything in employees. And that's everything that is in sales. Now, that should say remote, not remove. That's probably why that error is there. All right. We'll go back. We can go back if we need to and take a look at this again. So far we've come in and we have added 1/6 of the stuff that we're supposed to add in here. In other words, we have filled up one of the folders, and in that folder, we have put in both, all right, our domain in our domain models, our employee class and our sales class. All right, so I'm going to do a file save all, and I'm going to close both of these for now. All right, now take a break soon, but before we do, because I should have done this earlier, even though it doesn't matter, let's go to tools. Let's go down to NuGet Package Manager and let's choose Manage NuGet Packages for Solutions. You can see that right now nothing's installed. So let's go to Browse and let's put in Microsoft Entity Framework Core. And I don't even know if we need this one. I've been doing a lot of reading online, and some of them say always put this in. Other ones say that it's mandatory. One person said they don't put it in. All right, so Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. I'm going to install that. All right, so there's the first one. Then I want the Microsoft Entity Framework Core tools. There's that one. I'm going to install that one as well. All right, and finally, I'm going to come in and install one more, and that is I'm going to replace tools with SQL Server. And there's that one. And again, I'm going to install. Okay, you've seen me do this plenty of times, but I'm going to close this. Then I'm going to reopen it and go to install just to make sure that all three of those packages are in there. And as you can see, all three are. Okay, so I'm going to do another file save all, and then I'm going to close this. All right. And the next thing I want to do is I want to go down to my view models. All right. And we're going to create a new class, just one, have one view model in here. All right. So I'm going to right mouse click on my view models folder. I'm going to add a class, and I am going to call that class sales list view model, just like that. Sales list view model. I'm going to put a couple using statements at the top. All right, and now we'll put in our stuff. When we get done with this, I don't know, it's about 30 to 40 lines. We'll take a break. All right, so taking it from the top. I did call that sales, so that's okay. See, why am I getting an error there? Guess they want another using statement on the top, that being this one right here. using quarterly sales app.models.domain models. Okay. All right, that made my error go away. We're going to use this right here with routing. All right. And hopefully I don't have to explain that one. It's pretty self-explanatory. That'll be the total number of pages we have, and we need to know the total number of pages, which is basically our total number of records, so we can divide that by 4 and get how many total pages we're going to have in their period. So it'll be total records divided by 4. All right. And if it's not a whole number, we'll have to add an extra page, of course. All right. Now this is a little bit more complex, so don't worry that we've got that error there. All right. But this right here, all right, well, again, remember, we have to worry about such things as with the years that the birth date must be less than the current year, etc. So it must be a valid date, and it for the hire date, it's got to be a valid date. It also has to be before January 1st, 1995, when the company was founded. So it's kind of interesting when you take a look in here. That should be a semicolon. That's why I'm getting the error. But you'll notice, hopefully, that immediately this thing came in here and it figured out that what I wanted to do in here was not a plus plus, all right, but it was a minus minus. So we're using descending. We want to go most to least, all right, with our employees. And finally, we want to just come in here and just say, and all right, so let me make that a little smaller so you can see all of it. That's going to handle our years. We're going to have to make a similar one to that for our quarters. Remember, this is our view model. So this is going to allow us this is basically the file that we're using in here so that we're able to communicate with the database. All right. So let me move this up a little. 5 more lines and we're taking a break. Down a little. All right, so that should be quarters. And that should be Q. There we go. All right, so then with all that, we have now finished our domain models and we finished our view model. All right, so we're going to take a break. We're going to come back at 1:15. And when we do, we're going to go into our data access. And there's quite a few things that we have to put in here. All right, so we'll do the data access, then the extension methods, then the grid, then the validation. We'll see where we are time-wise after that. Let's come back, please, in about 12 minutes at 1:15. All right, it is 1:15, so I'm going to continue on. So far we have come in and we have filled in our domain model and our view model folders. All right, so next we're going to go over to the data access, which is currently empty, and we're going to add some stuff into there, in particular, 7 files. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to add, but I don't want to choose class. I want to choose new item, and I want to choose interface. We're going to make 2 interfaces here, and then 2 classes that are going to implement those interfaces. We have done this before. We're going to make a unit of work and a repository that we can use. So this first one that's right here, the name of this interface will be unit of work.cs. Just like that. It'll be nice and small. It's only about 5 or 6 lines of typing. Actually, it's more like 2 or 3. So that's the interface, the unit of work. And we're going to put in here repository. Don't worry if we get any errors. We're going to do that next. I'll fix that in a second. And this will be read only, so it's only going to have a get in there. So this has to be changed to repository. All right. Now, again, it's giving us that error. That error will be gone literally in a matter of minutes. All right. We need another one for sales. And this again will be just read only. All right, so I got to fix this one as well. Just like that. All right. Called it sales. So yeah, sales, employee and sales. All right. So that's the first one. And again, we're getting those errors because it even says the type or namespace repository could not be found. Show fixes. We could literally come in. Well, we need a using. All right. But that still didn't fix the error. So we could come in and tell it to create it or generate it for us. I'm going to do it myself. So we've got that in here right now. And again, we just added this using. I don't think we're going to even need that, but that's okay. The system wanted to put that in. So I'm going to do a save all here. Then I'm going to add a second interface. And that second interface will be the iRepository interface. Okay, remember, these are both interfaces. So I'm going to right mouse click on here, add, again, go to new item, not the class, interface. And I'm going to call this one iRepository.cs, just like that. All right, this one is not very long either, about 5 lines or 6 lines to type in. You may or may not have already figured out we're getting an error here on query options. That's another one we're going to create in just a moment. All right, so. All right, that is everything that is in there. Now, I think would be the reason we're getting that T is we do need a using statement up here. So let me add that. Okay, so that, no, that didn't look like it got rid of much of anything. So there is that. If I put my mouse over this, it says no internal fixes, telling us to generate a class. Well, we're going to make that class in just a moment. All right, so I'll give you a second. So right now we have two interfaces, one interface that is called iUnit of work and one interface that is called iRepository. So now we're going to come in and we're going to actually create our unit of work class. When we get done with that class, we're going to create another class that's going to be called repository. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to do a file save all. I'll leave these all open and I'm going to come in here to data access, right mouse click, add. Now I am going to choose class. And this is going to be unit of work.cs, just like that. All right. And if we go back to our iUnit of work, all right, well, it's not there because that had the repository in it. Okay. And this has the query option. So we'll still have to make some changes here. So this is our unit of work class. Again, not bad, about 20 lines or so that we have to type in. Now it's giving us an error here, and if I mouse over it and I show my potential fixes, it's telling us to generate a sales class, context class. Yep, we're going to do that, just not right now. All right. Then we need our constructor. One thing we forgot to do here is to implement our iUnit of work. So make sure you put that in there. And come on, why are you giving me an error here? Oh, because there's stuff in here that was in iUnit of work that we haven't put in yet. All right. Now, you should remember this. I'm getting rid of this. We don't need that. There's two ways that we can write this line right here. One is the way it's been written. Totally fine. Not a problem. All right. I tend to, because I'm more old fashioned, to do it the old fashioned way, which is like this. You can do it either way. It really and truly does not matter. All right. Next, we want to come in and we want to create some repository stuff. So again, we may get errors because we haven't created the repository class yet. That's why it's trying to add that I on there. All right. And I'm going to remove that, move this up a little bit. Right, and that should just say context. That's the problem when you type this. It doesn't matter. It really and truly doesn't matter what you do first, what you do last, etc. It really doesn't matter because something is going to be referencing something you have not yet created. So. Like I said, don't worry about all these errors that we're getting in here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move down a little bit, put this up at the top, and then we're going to create another one that's going to look like this, but it's going to be for sales. And it looks like when I did the one up here, we needed a get here. That might be why I have some of these errors. All right, so fix that one. I'll give you a second to do that, and then I'll move back down again. Again, these repositories hopefully are going to go away in just a moment. All right, so hopefully you've got that fixed, and we'll come down to here. All right. So like I said, hopefully in just a moment, all of the stuff that we've got in here where we're getting errors on repository, they're all going to be fixed. We're going to type in our repository class. All right. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you want to say, it's the longest one that we've done so far. It's about 60 or 70 lines. So we'll do that one next. All right. So let me do a file, save all here. All right. I'm going to come back over to my data access, right mouse click, add a class, and that one will be just repository. All right. And that public class repository will need some stuff in here. It will implement the I repository. Where T class, just like that. I don't know why it gave extra curlies, but it did. Okay. We don't want that to say my class. We just want this to be class. All right. Now I'm looking here. Show potential fixes. It's again asking me, hey, you haven't put the stuff in that you defined in your I repository file. You've got to put that stuff in here. I don't know why the word class is in here twice, but it is there. All right, so let's start putting that stuff in. Oh, this is wrong. That's to list. Now, just so you know, and I think you do already, but when I look at all this stuff right here, what we're doing in here is we're implementing all the stuff that we added up here in our iRepository. All right, so that's what we're putting in here right now. Now, one of the reasons we're getting a lot of errors right now is if you look, everywhere we're using this build query that's in here, we're getting an error. The query options is a file we still have to make. We'll make that next. But the build query is a method that we're going to put down here. It is giving me some errors in here and I'm not sure why, but let's just take this from the top here. All right. It'd be a lot of errors, a lot more than I thought I'd get, but hopefully these are going to be flushing their way out very quickly. All right, we don't have a sales contacts file yet, so we'll put that in soon. All right. This generate iRepository in a new file. I don't know why we'd have to do that. We've already got that. All right, so that sales context, the query options. Well, this build query right here, that's a mistake because that should be a little u. It should fix that. Good. Query options we're getting because we haven't written that one yet. We'll do that one next. All right, and that looks like up till here, these are all the errors that we're getting. So let's look in here. Order by. So that is correct. So let's see once just for the heck of it. Don't know why it's doing that, but it is. All right. Well, again, hopefully the code I've given you is correct. All right. But we're having plenty of errors in here. So I'm going to do a file, save all. And the next one we're going to create is query options, again, about 30 lines long. All right. So let's come in here and do that. So it's a class. So in data access, right mouse click, add class, query options with a capital Q and a capital O. All right, let's start creating this. We need a couple using statements at the top. Okay. We're setting the default to ascending. It should be anyway. But gosh. Okay, there we go. Doesn't lie here. Straight. Question. Now, I'm gonna come right back down to this, but it looks like we have no errors in here anymore, which is a good thing. Again, as we're working our way through here, we're getting rid of some of the errors that we have in the other files. We'll make the sales context next. Then we'll make a the sales query options, then we'll take a break. All right. And I'm taking for granted that if I'm going too fast, etc., you're going to stop me. All right. And what I'm going to do, or at least try to do, is go back and reread chapters 12 and 13 again, because I think this particular program would make more sense if we filled it up with a lot of comments, which it doesn't have right now. All right. So again, I'm going to do a file, save all here. I'm going to come in.
Mr. Scott, can you give me 1
Yes.
second?
Can I do what?
Can you just let me finish typing
Sure,
this in real quick?
sure, not a problem. Just let me know when you're ready.
All right, Mr. Scott, I'm good.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm going to come into the data access. I'm going to add another class here. All right, and that class is going to be our sales context class. So hopefully that'll get rid of all those errors that we had before for sales context. Couple using statements at the top. All right. This is going to have our seed data in it. It's not real big. It's about 80 lines, but half of that is the seed data. So it's not going to take that long. Okay. Like I said, we'll do this and then we'll do the sales query options and then we'll take a break. So now, since it's sales context, of course, it has to inherit from DB context. And that was why we added this. Oh, we need the curly braces in here. Okay, so that's that. That's our constructor, of course. We've done that plenty of times. All right, looks like we need another using statement, the one up here that I've got in blue on line 3. All right. All right, now we'll put in our on model create. All right, and again, inside of there, we'll put in our has data and we will add four employees and we will add four new sales. All right. Get rid of this. No. Okay. Like I said, we need 4 of these, so I'm going to do some copy and pasting in here. Oops, I need that line, these lines too. Stupid. There we go. I don't care what you put in here. This is just the stuff that they gave me in the book. So if you want to put in different stuff, it's up to you. All right, so that's employee 1, new employee 1, and new employee 2. And we're going to add 2 more in here. Actually, I think we only put in 3, so we're going to add 1 more down below this. So I'm taking that you've got all this already, so let me move this down. Copy all of this. I don't need the comma because it's the last one. But I do need to move, oops, to move that over. Okay, 3. Somehow I lost my ending parenthesis. All right, so taking it from the top, then those are the 3 employees. I'll leave it up there for just a second. Ada Lovelace, notice her manager ID is 0. Why? Because again, she has no manager. All right, and everybody else is going to have her as a manager. So there's Ada, there's Catherine Johnston, and there is Grace Hopper. I will leave those out there for just a second. Make sure that you end the first one, the curly with a curly brace with a comma, and the second one, not after the third. Make sure you put the ending paren in and a semicolon on the end as a delimiter that we are done now with that set of seed data. All right. So then we're going to put in the other 4 because we have 4 sets of sales in here. So this will be model builder entity sales. Again, dot has data. First paren, there's our ending paren, which will have this at the end. And let's put these in right now. All right, so since the employee ID was 2, we know that those sales were made by Catherine Johnson. Okay. He did a comma at the end here, and then let's continue on. Two. So what doesn't it like here? Oh, we need, geez Louise, Jeff. There we go. So there's our first 2. I'll give you a second to put those in. And I'll move up and we'll do the last 2 and then we're done with this file. One more file and we're taking a break. All right, I'm going to grab both of these and I'm going to copy them. I need a comma after here. And then I want to paste those 2 back into right here and then make my changes to them. So I've got 1 and 2. So these will be 3 and 4, just so I don't get any errors here. So 3, quarter 4, 2019. And this will be 3, as will this. Again, this is seed data, so we could put almost anything in here as long as it was legal stuff, so to speak. Right? That is it for this particular file. If you need me to, I can go up or down in here. All right, but that's it for this file. So we have one more to go and then we'll take a break. This next one is not real big, but it is our sales query options. All right. So again, I'm going to come into here. I'm going to right mouse click in here. We got a lot of files we put in here already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looks like 7 files. We're going to put in one more. All right, so I'm going to right mouse click, do an add. Go to class, and this will be sales query options.cs right there. All right, this one is, I'd say, about 30 lines, so hopefully we can do this in just a few minutes. All right, this is going to inherit from query options. Like that. I think I'm going to need a using statement in here in a minute. and I will. So you need that using statement at the top. All right, and then I'm just going to start typing away. All right, let me make this a little smaller so you can read all of it. And that is it for that one. So I'm going to do a file save all. I'm going to leave this here. And it is 2:12, so let's take till 2:25. And then we're going to come back and write some more. Again, we won't finish this today. We'll see how much by, let's say, 3 o'clock, we can get done with the models folder. And then tomorrow we will concentrate then basically or mainly on the controllers folder and on the views folder. Okay, so 225, we'll pick it back up.
If you're over the age of 40,
All right, it is 2:25. This is what we have left then. We have to do the extension methods, and we'll put in 3 of those, won't take too long. The grid, that'll take a while, and the validation. So there's about 11 more files we have to put in. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a file, save all, and since we just added our DB context, I want to see if the database can be built now. And if it can't, then it's not good, but we'll have to figure out why. So I'm going to go into the NuGet package manager, into my package manager console. I do not have a migrations folder right now, so I'm going to do an add migration. And this will just be our initial setup. Okay, and I'll put today's date too. -04-03. Not great. It failed right away. So I have to figure out why that failed, but I'm going to try it again after I put in all the other stuff on here. I thought it would succeed, but hopefully we can figure out what the problem is. All right, so next I'm going to go into the extension methods, and I'm going to add 3 different classes in here. So the first class that we're going to add is going to be called session extensions. .cs, and as you'd probably guess, it's going to help when we're working with sessions. All right, so we'll be using here a Microsoft ASP.NET Core .HTTP, and the using Newton Soft .json. Now that's going to give us an error. Remember, we had to come back, and now I can remember what we did for this. Show potential fixes. No, we don't want to remove the unnecessary. I think we're going to have to go back in. I don't remember, so I'm going to look it up right now. NuGet package manager, it says by using the .NET add package command. So let's look at that. We've got our project. There's nothing big there. Create a new project by the following. No, we don't need that. So we should need to do this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that command up there for a second, but right from my package manager console, I'm going to see if I can add that. But before I do, I'm going to try to do one other thing. Because this is for my own edification. So we're going to put in that command in a minute, .NET add package newtonsoft.json. But before we do, what I'd like to see is come in here and go into the package manager. In fact, not even do that. Go to tools, package manager, manage package for solutions. And I'm going to check in here and I'm going to browse for Newton, see if it finds anything. All right, no packages found. Okay, cool. So from my package manager, I'm going to close this. And from the package manager down here, I think I can add it right here, but we'll find out. So .NET add package newtonsoft.json. Doesn't like it. Couldn't find any project in here. Okay, so it didn't like it being added from here. All right. Open the NuGet package manager.
Mr. Scott,
Yeah.
you can install it in the solutions.
Oh, coming from the references?
Yeah, like in the NuGet solution when you browse. Because I just installed it in there and it fixed it.
All right. Well, I'm going to take your word for it. So walk me through this if you would.
So just like you download Entity Core.
Okay. So
It
kind of
should
what I
pop
said.
up in there. Yeah, like you did before. I don't know why it didn't pop up though.
Okay. I mean, that's a cleaner way to do it anyway. That's why I was surprised it didn't pop up. There it is. Okay. And then just install. Thank you. Whoa, that sure gave me a ton of errors in here, but that's all right. We'll work on those next. All right, so. Let's close that. Let's close this. And that's gone now. The error right there is gone. All right, this is a fairly short file. It's only about 20 lines. We got half of them almost in there already. So don't type with me because a bunch of this is wrong. I'm going to have to fix it in just a minute. Let's just do it here. Public static void. In fact, the whole class should be static. And that all, remember what this means is that I'm going to be able to use the stuff in here without having to instantiate a sessions extension object. Public static void set object T. I'm just going to put this on multiple lines just so it doesn't flow over, so to speak. So we've got our get and our set for our object. And this has got the curlies because it has 2 lines in it. This had just 1 line in it. That's a little hard to read, but hopefully it's enough on there. So what doesn't it like about get string? This should just be session. I think that's why I'm getting the error here. This I session, comma, string key. Well, it doesn't like something in here, so let's see if we can figure out what it is. Public. Static T, get object T, this I session, session. There we go. There you go. That's the entire file. So I'll give you a second to put that in after I fixed my mistakes. And there will be 2 more files, a string sessions and a query sessions. We'll do the string one next because that's the longer one. Then we'll do the query one. We'll see where we are time-wise then. That's correct. I don't know, I'm getting a warning here, but that is correct code. Oh, possible null reference. Okay. So again, I'm sure we could declare it as nullable. I'm leaving it the way it is. So I'm taking for granted you've had time to put that one in. So I'm going to do a file, save all. That's it for this file. And I'm going to go back into here into my extension methods, and I'm going to add a second class. And that class is going to be called string extensions. .cs. All right, give me just a second here. All right. So far I've got session extensions and now I'm putting in string extensions. And like I said, it's about 30 lines. All right. I don't know. I put a using up here, but it's gray, but system.text. I don't know. It was gray, but I don't know why I put it in there, but I did. Space public. All right. You know what slug is from what we've done before. So there really should be nothing surprising there. All right. That we're replacing any blank spaces basically in there with the hyphens. All right. That's not everything, but there's a couple more things that we have to write in here. All right. Now, I want to say this to you just because I'm trying to be complete here. You may have heard this before, you may not have. Okay. If I come in and I'm writing a program, so if I come in here and I'm writing a program and I do this, I say string name equals Jeff, like that. I think you know what happens, but I'm not sure. All right. And what I mean is this, someplace in memory, we don't know where it is, but someplace in memory, let's say that it's in locations 2000, 2001, 2002, and 2003. All right. We get in there the J, the E, the F, and the F. Now, they're not put in there as letters. They're put in as a series of zeros and ones. All right, the character set that makes this up. Now, I'm not trying to waste your time, but there's a reason I'm telling you all this. If later on in my program, I go in and I change that, so I say name equals Jeffrey, there is no guarantee that there's room over here for the R, the E, and the Y. There could be something there already. All right. So what happens is it's some different place in memory. So for instance, maybe 5,000, 5,001, etc. That's where the J, E, F, F, R, E, Y go into. The reason I'm telling you that is that strings are known as strings are immutable. So once you set a string, if you change its value, its location in memory is virtually guaranteed to change. So who cares? Why am I telling you this? The reason that I'm telling you this is if we go back to what we were writing right here, now we're using a string builder. A string builder is immutable. So in other words, if I was going to go and create a name and I wanted to be able to create it over time, and I wanted it to be able to, rather than worrying about mutable, immutable, or whatever, I'd make it a string builder and then convert it into a string. So strings are immutable, string builders are mutable. Maybe it's not that big a thing in here, but when we used to teach Java in this class, we would spend a lot of time talking about that. Why it does that all the time, I don't know. It's going to, though. That should just say this. There we go. This is, if you remember, one of the things that we want to do in these extension methods. We want to be able to make comparisons, and we don't want those comparisons to be case sensitive. So we are creating an equals no case method so that we compare something, we don't care. All right. So basically what it's saying is, hey, check. And if necessary, make sure that both sides are lowercase in this case. All right. And I also want you to realize that, again, technically, this is one line of code. I'm putting it over 2 lines because otherwise it would go and keep wrapping. It wouldn't wrap. It would just keep going off the screen. But that's one line of code. Since it's only one line of code, we don't have to put it in to curly braces like we did here. All right. Okay. This is going to come in, and as it says right here, we're going to be able to compare whatever we pass in with an ID. All right. And remember that what we pass in is technically going to be a string. So we're attempting to come in here and convert it. We're attempting to come in here and convert it to an integer. If it cannot be converted, what should happen in here is it should automatically return the default value for an int, which is 0. All right, one more. Oops. Well, again, I can write this without the curlies. All right. And finally, what this does is it's going to capitalize the first letter. Okay, it should at least. And why might we want to use that? Well, again, if we are putting in the first name and the last name and we have make a mistake and don't capitalize one of them, at least it should show when we're printing it out and we're running it together in our full name if we run this particular method on it. You should also notice that we've got what in here? 1, 2, 3, 4 different methods. All of them are static, which means that whatever the class is, string extensions right here. All right, that means that public static, they should be static. Maybe that's why that's breaking. There we go. So public static class string extensions. The reason that all of those are static and the class itself is static is, remember what static means. This is something back to our days near the beginning of the C# class. Main was always static. What did that mean? It meant we didn't have to instantiate that. All right, we could just call it. All right, so we can call these, we can call any of these methods that you see in here without having to instantiate a string extensions object. We can just use it, for lack of better words. All right. One more that we have to do in here. So file, save all. And inside here of our extension methods, all right, we're going to put in one more here, and it's going to be query extensions. The good news is it's about 10 lines long. So class, this will be query extensions .cs, just like that. I do have a using at the top. Yeah, let me fix this. Line. Okay, we'll fix that error right now. This iQueryable T, which we will call query. There we go. And again, this must also be static. The first one that we put in here was our session extension. I did make that static. The second we put in there was our string extensions. I made that static. And this one is our query extensions, and that is static. So I'm going to do a file, save all in here. All right, I'm gonna do a couple more. I'll go till about 3, and then we'll take a break. In fact, we'll call it a day because I think 3 hours of this is enough. So we now have where we have come in here, and in our models folder, we have added a whole bunch of stuff in our data access folder. In our domain models, we have added in our employee and our sales. In our extension methods, we have just added those 3 extensions. And in our view model, we added our 1 view model. So what's left is the grid and the validation. All right. Unfortunately, the grid, there's quite a bit of stuff to type in there. Like I said, we could go till 4 and do it today. I just think that after a while, I don't know about you, but with me at least, my head starts to spin with all this stuff. So what we'll do is we will start on the validation ones right now and just do the first one because it's only about 25 lines long. So I'm going to jump down here, the validation. I'm going to right mouse click, add a class. And this class will be called past due attribute. .cs. Now, just so you know, this is going to extend or really inherit from validation attribute, which we didn't write yet because that one's fairly long. So it's going to give us an error right here. Don't let that worry you, please. All right, let's just type in this one. Connected override validation result is valid. Object value, rid of this. Go on to the next line here. This is something we're going to be using in those validation checks that we looked at earlier. And in particular, all right, the way that we're going to be using it is, again, with our dates, because remember, there's 2 things with the date, all right, that your birth date has to be a valid date, and the date that you were hired has to be a valid date, and it has to be before or after for your hire date, January 1st, 1995. Let's put this on a new line here, just because otherwise it's going to run off the screen. Okay, I'll leave that up there for just a minute. And like I said, it is 2:57. I think that's enough for today. So tomorrow when we come in, what we'll have to do is the first thing we'll do is we will come in and write a routine that is called validate or the greater than. All right. And then we will also write, or maybe we'll do that first, the actual validate routine itself. All right. And that'll be finish the validation stuff. And then finally, we'll have to go in and we will have to write the stuff in our grid to make that work. Now, what I'm going to do too right now, literally, is when we get done, is I'm going to go in and see if I can figure out why when I tried to do that migration, it didn't work. If I figure it out and I am able to migrate, we'll look at that tomorrow also. All right. Plus, that still isn't going to take that much time. Then we'll jump in and we will have inside of here, we will have several controllers. All right. And in particular, we will have what? We will have an employee controller, a sales controller, a home controller, and then one for what we're working on now, a validation controller. Then we will have to add also the associated views. So we'll see if we get done with that tomorrow, great. If it takes a little longer, we'll run into Monday with it. All right. The other thing I'm going to be doing over the weekend is seeing again if I can get my database to work with the book's website. If I can, we'll work with that. If I cannot, all right, then on Monday of next week, we will finish this up and we'll jump right into chapter 14 and we'll use the books or the database for the book website that's in the book. And we'll go into chapter 14 and ideally 14 and 15 next week. All right. That's all I have. I will talk to you tomorrow. Oh, last thing on that. Remember, tomorrow is the first Thursday of the month. So we will start tomorrow at 12:45. We will not start at 12:05 because I have our monthly IT staff meeting from 12:05 until about 12:40. So I will see you tomorrow at 12:45. Have a good day.